over the dark night. She reached up to the sky of stars and caught the red-hot light of the North Star. Opened the earth, walking with blood-soaked feet. She challenged the whip, the gun, the knife. She challenged the fire, pulled from the bodies of slaves, made into laws, prisons, and courts.
Greetings, and as always, welcome back. In retaliation to the U.S.'s weekend unprovoked attack on Iran, Iran fires missiles at a United States base in Qatar. Well, what are we to make of all of this? Let's connect some dots and find out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.
Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with Dr. Wilmer Leon, and I am Wilmer Leon. Here's the point. We have a tendency to view current events as though they occur in a vacuum, failing to understand the broader historical context in which most events take place. During each episode, my guest and I have probing, provocative, and in-depth discussions that connect the dots between these events and the broader historic context in which they occur, thus enabling you to better understand and analyze the events that are impacting the global village in which we live. On today's episode, the issue before us is Donald Trump attacked 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And he warned Iran that it must now, quote unquote, make peace. Quote, if they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier, Trump said. Many targets inside Iran remain. Quote, but if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. And in response to that threat by President Trump, earlier today, as I mentioned, Iran launched missile attacks at the U.S. military base Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, retaliating for the American bombing of its nuclear sites and escalating tensions in the volatile region. The guest that I had scheduled for us today at the very last minute was called into a government meeting, and so he is not able to join us. So, folks, you're just stuck with me. What can I say? So with that, let me do this really quickly. Give me 1 second here, because this last minute change slightly disrupted the flow. But as always, we persevere. We move forward, we carry on. There we go. Okay, so with that, let's get down to business. How do I want to start this? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So I think it's it's incredibly important. It is imperative that when you start a conversation of this nature, I think it's incredibly important to understand some fundamental realities. And these aren't opinions. These are fundamental realities. U.S. intelligence has been very clear. Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. And we know that Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's own director of national intelligence, testified to that fact in March. Testified before the Senate in March. Now, it's also important to understand she was not speaking as Tulsi Gabbard. She was not speaking to this, she was not testifying before the Senate expressing her own opinion. She was testifying as the director of national intelligence, who was put in that position by none other than the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And she was speaking on behalf of 16 or 17 intelligence agencies in the country, as well as information that she, in that position, has received from other intelligence agencies around the world. That's a very, very, to me, relevant, salient, important reality that, unfortunately, when you listen to a lot of the mainstream chatter on the news programs, they ignore that point. I mean, really ignore that point. So another thing that I think is important for you to add to your analysis here, and this is why I said at the top, Donald Trump attacked Iran on Saturday. And some may say that this is a distinction without a difference, and I can understand why some would say that. But I think it's important because this was an act of war that the President of the United States engaged in without consent and advice by Congress. And advice and consent, not consent and advice. Advice and consent by Congress. So it was an unconstitutional action taken by the United States president. And that, I think, is incredibly important. And this is another point. And folks, this isn't debatable. I don't care that Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, the guy from North Carolina, that came before the American people and told the American people, I'll paraphrase because I don't have the exact quotation in my head. Donald Trump is a lying, racist, narcissistic bigot. That's not the quote, because I think those are adjectives. I think I got some of those mixed in reverse. I don't remember the order in which he laid them out. I didn't make that up. Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, said that to the American people and was very clear, very adamant about that point. So the president. The only entity in the country that can declare war is Congress. And I do realize that the president is allowed to commit American troops in certain situations, but it's important to remember that in the instances where the president is allowed to engage in committing American troops is when American land or interests are under threat. Under threat. Not the perception of threat. Under threat. And in this instance, Iran wasn't threatening anybody. The United States was not under threat. The interests of the United States, not under threat. All of this is hyperbole. All of this is propaganda that has been created and perpetrated by basically two entities, the Trump administration and the Zionist settler colonial government of Israel, which its representative in the United States is AIPAC. Now, not much of that can be debated, not by anybody that has any real understanding of reality and what's going on in the world. Even so getting back to the president's authority or ability to commit troops, I think it's 30 days. It might be 45, but I think it's 30. That after doing this, the president then has to go to Congress and has to get permission by Congress to continue the engagement, which is another element to demonstrate that it's not carte blanche. The president does not have the constitutional authority to do what he did, basically putting the United States on the brink of war. Because again, that act on Saturday was very clearly an act of war. Not debatable, boys and girls. When you drop 30,000-pound bombs on a country that was posing zero threat, no threat to the United States, posing no threat to anybody. Remember, Israel attacked Iran. Iran did not attack Israel. That's a fact. In fact, take a look, Melody. Let's see the B1, or I think it's the B2 with the look at this, folks. Look at this. Why? That's the question everybody listening to this program. You need to email, you need to call your congressional representative and ask them why. Why did the president do this? In fact, there's a line now that I think is so apropos. If you remember the video, Senator Warnock was having a town hall meeting, and I believe if she's not Palestinian, she was definitely a Palestinian supporter. She stood up in the town hall and she said, "Senator Warnock, I need you to explain why you're backing," and I'm paraphrasing, but this is pretty close to accurate, to exact. She stood up and she said, "I need you to explain why you're backing genocide in Gaza. And as this sister was going through her presentation, making her comments, there's a woman sitting behind her who says, show some respect. And the Palestinian sister who was making her comments, I think initially she ignores it. And then the woman says again, show some respect. And the Palestinian sister turns around and says, what? What? And then she turns back around, and I go through all that to get to this. She says to Warnock, make it make sense. Make it make sense. She says, I need you. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not too far off. She says, I need you to explain to me how your support of genocide makes sense. So I think that should become the rallying cry here. Let's roll the video, or as they say in the baked bean commercial, roll that beautiful bean footage.
How are you helping Georgians? Explain yourself. $8.8 billion. You know how many children are slaughtered? Slaughtered every day.
Be respectful. Bombing children is okay, but you want us to be respectful. He sent $8.8 billion a month ago of weapons to Israel, but you want us to be respectful. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. They're slaughtering Palestinians.
Look at the faces of those people. I hate to crack on y'all in Atlanta, and I know that's not reflective or does not reflect everybody in Atlanta, but damn, y'all are clueless. Look at the faces of these people. Clueless. And this is Dr. King's church. Look at these people. They have no idea what this sister's talking about. Look at all these people up here in the what would be, I guess, reserved for the balcony. I mean, reserved for the choir. If this were a church, look at her. Homegirl, I don't know who you are, but you need to do some reading. Look at the brother. I don't know who he is, but instead of them standing and applauding her, not her, the Palestinian sister making the comments, instead of them standing and applauding her, they sitting there like deer in the headlights. Look at this. Look at this. Like deer in the headlight. You probably can't see me pointing at the screen. Look at this. Clueless. No, that's why I said, Peggy, I said, I know this does not speak for everybody in Atlanta. I said that at the top, Peggy. I'm not lumping y'all in because, Peggy, I know you're down. I got that. I'm really speaking to the people in the church or about the people. Clueless. Clueless. Peggy, I'm not lumping y'all. Which takes me to another point. Where was Congress before on Friday? Where was Congress on Thursday? Where was Congress on Wednesday? Especially the entity that was initially labeled itself, I believe, the conscience of the Congress. Where was the Congressional Black Caucus? Where was Gregory Meeks? Where was Hakeem Jeffries? Just to name the first two to come to mind. Why weren't they on the steps of Congress Thursday saying, don't do it, Donnie, don't do it. Bad move, Donnie. Don't do it. It's unconstitutional, Donnie. When he came out and said, I'm giving them 2 weeks, they should have come out. They should have been standing. You remember a couple of weeks ago when what's his name from Cory Booker and I think it was Hakeem were sitting on the steps. Remember that? After Cory Booker did his 25-hour say nothing-a-thon. Remember that? And then they went and sat down on the steps of the Capitol in the wake of the 25-hour say nothing-a-thon. Why weren't they standing en masse? That means all together. Kevin Baptiste, my brother, Congress can't stand in the S if they help create. Absolutely right. Thank you, Kevin, my brother. Thank you for that $5. And you're right. That's my point. That's my point. We have 3 different bodies in our government. We have checks and balances. But Congress sat idly by, most of Congress. Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia, along with a couple others, were trying to get a bill passed to prevent Donald Trump from doing this. Kudos, I credit them. But most of Congress did nothing. But now that it's done, now that it happened on Saturday, now Chuck Schumer wants to come out on Sunday and say, well, we really shouldn't have done this. And Hakeem, well, we really shouldn't have done. This is not nice. I wish you hadn't have done this, Mr. President. I believe it's unconstitutional, Mr. President. Where was that on Thursday? Why weren't you standing before the action was taken? Sorry, Cherie, I wasn't able to watch Jamarl this morning as much as I wanted to. I wasn't able to watch Jamarl this morning, but I know it had to have been. Anyway, we have 3 co-equal branches of government. 3 co-equal branches of government. Article 1 in the Constitution is the legislative branch, and it's listed first, not because it's the most powerful. It's listed first because it's the most important. Then Article 2 is the executive branch. Article 3 is the judiciary. So Congress has usurped, they have abdicated their responsibility as the primary check and balance on the executive branch. So that's why I'm saying y'all need to call your elected representatives. And Peggy Parks Miller, y'all need to call Warnock. All you folks in Atlanta, all you folks in Georgia, you need to call Warnock and let Warnock know, dude, you were supposed to be on the front end of this deal, not on the back end. You are the pastor that has stepped to Dr. King's pulpit. Where would Dr. King have been? Go back and read Why I Oppose the War. Time to Break Silence. Why I Oppose the War in Vietnam. In fact, that's y'all's assignment for today. That's y'all's assignment for today, is to go and read Dr. King's speech from the Riverside Baptist Church, April 4th, 1967, the year to the day before he was Dr. King was assassinated. Go back and read that speech. And then email that speech. If y'all want to do something, email that speech to Reverend Warnock. Ask him if he's ever read it. And everybody, well, of course he's read it. No, well, based upon his inaction, I'd have to say, I don't think he's read it. You know what that says to me? The caption under that should be, what speech you talking about, Wilmer? That's almost like, what you talking about, Willis? That look, that quizzical look says to me that the caption under that should be, or the thought bubble, is that what you call those things? Thought bubbles should be, what speech you talking about, Wilmer? War is the enemy of the poor. Dr. King says in that speech, he says, we thought we were reaching success in the poverty programs. And then came the war in Vietnam. And it sucked all of the resources out of the poverty programs like a demonic suction tube. War is the enemy of the poor. So y'all's assignment is to read that speech and then send that as an attachment to your elected representatives, your member of Congress, your 2 senators, and I want Lottie Dottie and everybody to send it to CC Raphael Warnock on that email. Have you read this speech? Should be the headline in the email. That's y'all's assignment for the day. So Donald Trump tells Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, he says, I know where you live. I can get you if I want you. So right there, he's threatening the life of another world leader, which is in violation of protocol, international law, and I think American law. And if he does pull the trigger and try to assassinate the Ayatollah, that's A, illegal, B, incredibly stupid, because what that will do is inflame the millions of Shia Muslims all around the world. Smoking at the gas station, homie. Not a good idea. Donnie, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Because what would, imagine, and this doesn't take a whole lot of creativity. This doesn't take a whole lot of mental horsepower. Imagine if Khomeini flipped the script. And imagine what the American reaction would be if Khomeini said, Donnie, I got you. If Khomeini texted this picture of Trump and then superimposed upon that the crosshairs of a gun sight, imagine what the reaction would be from what's his name from South Carolina? He's such a feckless, worthless, you know what I'm talking about. The senator, I just mentioned him from South Carolina. Anyway, you all know what I'm talking about. Imagine what the reaction from the United States would be. Imagine what the reaction from the United States would be if Kim Jong-un posted something like that. Imagine that. The hypocrisy is nauseating. And we have to keep asking ourselves, why? I was thinking about the senator from South Carolina, and Hillary Clinton's name just popped in my head. But I know she's not the senator from South Carolina, but just to show you where things can go. Hillary Clinton's name just popped in my head. Larry Hooks Jr., thank you for that $4.99. Dr. Data did read my Facebook post on it. I will ask, how come you don't have more open phone? Well, Larry, okay, here's the answer. Because sometimes you need to listen more and talk less. And this is not directed at you personally. I don't always have open phones because sometimes you need to listen more than talk less. Listen more and talk less. That's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. For those that you all don't know, on my Saturday show, Inside the Issues on Sirius XM, I had Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson to talk about the threat of the bombing of Iran. And for those that that don't know, Colonel Wilkerson was Secretary of State General Colin Powell's chief of staff when he was Secretary of State, and he was General Powell's chief of staff when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And Colonel Wilkerson had an entire career on the intelligence side of the United States government, having briefed a number of presidents daily or vice presidents daily on intelligence matters. So if we're talking about the possibility at the time of Donald Trump attacking Iran, I rather hear Colonel Wilkerson than a caller. I had as my last in the last hour that brother right there, brilliant man. If you listen to the show on Saturday, hellified analysis. I mean analysis, not chatter, analysis. Then in my third hour, I had Green Party vice presidential candidate Butch Ware, Bilal Butch Ware. Now I can't remember who my first guest was. But it was, shoot, who was my first guest? Now I can't remember. But anyway, so sometimes, Larry, with all due respect, my brother. Oh, that's right. That's right. My first guest was former Congressman Dennis Kucinich in the first hour. So I started with Dennis Kucinich. I went from Kucinich to Larry Wilkerson, and from Larry Wilkerson to Bilal Butch Ware. Sometimes you need to listen. So that's why I didn't have open phones on Saturday to answer that question. So where was I? Oh, so Donald Trump tells Khomeini, if you respond, I'm going to respond, and what you're going to. So let's show the picture of the military base in Qatar. And so Iran has launched missiles, and this is the largest military base, I believe. It's the largest American military base in the region. And I don't remember exactly how many square miles this thing encompasses. But what Iran did was they sent missiles to the base, but I believe they intentionally had the missiles strike a part of the base where the probability of death was incredibly low. It would have had to be some random soldier riding in a vehicle out in the hinterlands to do something. Because, see, let me explain to you what I think is a major disconnect in a lot of people's thinking. Americans have a tendency to subscribe American thought process to foreign actors. So, for example, you look at President Putin's response to Ukraine. And because Putin didn't send missiles into Kyiv 2 years ago, you say, oh, he's scared. Oh, he's whatever. He's crazy. Oh, he's weak. Oh, because he didn't go full bore like the United States would have gone full bore. Well, that's because the man has a different thought process. That's because in this particular instance, Russia has a different objective. Russia was never trying to take over Ukraine. Russia was not trying to engage in regime change in Ukraine. Russia was hoping that through a scaled back response to the aggression of Ukraine as a proxy of the United States, that they could send a clear message to the United States that the saner, calmer, cooler heads in the United States would look at the action and say, you know what? We need to sit down and talk with this guy, because he's demonstrating a capacity. That beautiful tie, by the way. Look at that tie. He's demonstrating a capacity to wreak havoc that we really don't want to get into. But unfortunately, because of America's ignorance, America's arrogance, and America's lack of an understanding of history, message not received. Message sent, but message not received. And so I believe that that's also Lindsey Graham is who I was trying to. I said Hillary Clinton. Anyway, you say potato, I say potato. That man is a fool. That guy is, but okay, I'm not going to get distracted from my point. So I've asked this question of a number of guests, and they've all, to a person, agreed with me when I've said, are we mistaking restraint for fear? Are we misinterpreting the clear restraint that has been shown by Iran? Are we mistaking their restraint for fear? And the answer is yes. Because look, how old is the United States? 248, 249 years old, something like that. I don't keep numbers in my head well at all, so please forgive me not knowing that off the top of my head. How old is the culture of Iran? How old is Persian culture? 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old? Compared to a couple hundred years, not even 300 years. So they have a much larger view of history that we don't have. Stromboli, the Pope of Hope, South Carolina Senator Flimsy Flam. Yeah, same guy, Flimsy Flam. That's the one. Lindsey Graham, Flimsy Flam. Hillary Clinton, what the hell? So they have a, even if you look at Russia, look at the Soviet Union and how many people they lost during World War II. Americans love to walk around and talk, oh, we won World War II. We beat the Third Reich. America kicked Hitler's behind. Nay, nay. No, no. If you really know the history, Russia won World War II. They lost 25 million people. Wrap your head around that, boys and girls. 25 million people they lost to our 300, 400,000. Vladimir Putin lost a lot of family members in World War II. So they have an entirely different understanding of war than we do. So we love to sit back and stick out our chest and beat our chests and all this jingoistic language and all of this saber rattling rhetoric and all of these very slick and clever tropes. American internationalism manifests destiny. BS is what it is. Because see them guys in them crazy helmets? They weren't here. That's not Cleveland. That's not Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's not Miami. That's Moscow. See, so we have always had the luxury of being protected on the west by the Pacific Ocean, on the east by the Atlantic Ocean, and to the south by the Gulf of America. As Donnie loves to call it, the Gulf of America. So we haven't had to endure what that photo represents. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I got my pictures, my hand figured out. We haven't had to endure that. We've been able to sit back, with the exception of Pearl Harbor. we've been able to sit back and observe the horrors that have played themselves out on other people's land, other people's territory. Donald Trump don't know nothing about war. Nothing. Because he did everything, and his parents did everything in their power to prevent him from having to go fight one. He's a chicken hawk. If you remember the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, I'm a chicken hawk, and you're a chicken. Foghorn Leghorn. If you remember the Foghorn Leghorn cartoon, I'm a chicken hawk, and you're a chicken. Donald Trump is a chicken hawk. Dick Cheney, chicken hawk. George Bush, chicken hawk. They don't know nothing about fighting nothing. Couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. But Donald Trump wants to sit there now in the Situation Room, thumping his chest with that silly Make America Great Again stupid ass baseball hat on. Will somebody, Peggy Parks Miller, will you please call Donald Trump and Kevin Baptiste, do a brother a favor. Call Donald Trump and tell him to take off that ridiculous baseball hat. Please. OLL Griffin, do me a favor. Will you call Donald Trump? Call him, holla, and tell him to please take off that stupid baseball hat. Do you see President Putin with a baseball hat on? Had a beautiful tie. Put that picture back up, please, of Putin. Look at that tie. Oh my God, does he have a baseball hat on? You ever seen a picture of President Xi Jinping with a baseball hat on? I don't think so. There's a reason. You ever seen a picture of Kim Jong-un with a baseball hat on? Nicolas Maduro? I don't think so. Anyway, I digress. No chatter but BS. What are you talking about, Larry? I don't get your point. Okay. So Donald Trump tells Khomeini, don't respond. Do not respond. Khomeini responds. Oh, Timothy Sanders says Saturday was fire. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate that. I thought it was, which is why he didn't need to hear callers. I thought it was fire, personally, but that's a biased opinion on my part. So what was I saying? Oh, so Trump illegally bombs Iran and then tells Khomeini not to respond. Khomeini responds. What does that tell you? Even though it was a muted response, what does that tell you? It's, analogous to being a parent and you walk into your son's room and you tell your son, hey, don't pour the box of cereal out on the counter again. And then you walk out of your son's room and you go downstairs and there's cereal all over the counter. Now, as a parent, what are you going to do? Now, I am not equating the relationship between Khomeini and Trump as parent and child. I'm not putting it, don't take it there. No. I'm just saying bully. You can put it parent, child, bully, whatever. Donald Trump, as the bully, was telling Khomeini, I'm about to bomb your country. And when I do, you bet not respond. Bet not respond. And what does Khomeini say? Hey, Donnie, I'm responding. So now what does Donnie do? What's Donnie do now? What's the move going to be, Donnie? With your silly hat on. Oh, he was even talking about make Iran great again. Did y'all see that post? He posted calling for regime change in Iran and saying M-I-G-A, MIGA or MIGA, however you want to pronounce it. When two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. So I guess phonetically it would be MIGA. What you gonna do, Donnie? Because you told Khomeini not to respond, and he did. And by the way, Iran called the United States and told the United States what they were going to do, which is what they've been doing since the Biden administration, because they want to be sure that everybody understands that this is not a mistake. This is not an accident. So they sent a message to Donald Trump and said, this is what we're going to do. And they did it. And this is, I think, something that y'all need to understand that makes Iran different from a lot of other countries is when they tell you what they're going to do, they do it. They don't joke. They don't play. They do it. So Khomeini responds, and we've got a little video on the Western media response. I think this is NBC. This is their response to the video. Let's from the Bush baked bean commercial. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
This is Qatar. This is Doha. The skies over Doha earlier tonight. You can see what looks like those flashes in the air. They seem to be coming down. Unclear at this point if those are indeed the missiles being fired from Iran and then the air defense systems intercepting them. We'll know more in the coming minutes. Iran's armed forces has just put out a statement saying they've targeted the Al Udeid air base in Qatar there with a devastating and powerful missile attack. These might be some of those missiles either intercepted in the air or as they're coming down.
So just to give you an idea, that wasn't, I heard the count was 8. They sent 8 missiles. And I think they got the number 8 because that's the number of missiles that the United States, or bombs that the United States used in the Saturday attack. And so, again, you've got to understand their logic and their thought process. And I've said this a couple times before, but I think it bears repeating. They are a theocracy. Iran is a theocracy. They are, and this is not a qualitative analysis. This is just a statement of fact. They're a theocracy. They are controlled by the Holy Quran. And within the Holy Quran, there are spelled out rules of engagement, how you resolve conflict, rules of war. And that's what guides them. So that's one of the reasons why their responses are as measured as they are, is because the Quran, and that's why they select the targets that they select. They don't intentionally hit hospitals as the Zionists have done. They don't hit schools as the Zionists have done. They don't just arbitrarily pick civilian targets and vaporize them as the Zionists do. They don't tell people, we need you to evacuate the southern part of Gaza, move to the southwest part of Gaza, and then bomb the southwest part of Gaza. They don't do that because they're guided by actual morality. There is a moral compass. They don't tell people we're going to open up aid centers as these people are dealing with cholera, dealing with they're dying from starvation, literally dying from starvation. They're eating animal feed, trying to save something. And so the Iranians don't say, go to this aid station and then bomb the aid station. They don't do that. They have rules of war that they follow. And they've called Israel and said, at 7 o'clock, we're going to hit your, military information center. At 7:15, we're going to hit your military strategic center. At 7:30, so let everybody know this is what they're doing. Let everybody know you might want to go home. We're going to hit it at 7:30. So at 7:15, y'all might want to be on the bus heading home. That's how they play. That's how they play. But we can't seem to get the message. We can't seem to get the message. Oh, and Peggy, thank you. You appreciate the guests and you appreciate having the opportunity to have a dialogue. And we, more than you appreciate us, we appreciate you. So thank you for that. But I think, Peggy, you would agree that in terms of, I would love on this to be able to engage you all telephonically. I would love to be able to take callers. But we can't do that here. But would love to. But again, sometimes you need to, Peggy, this isn't directed at you, but sometimes you need to listen more and talk less. What? Franklin Graham was different than his father. He was asked by Dr. Billy Graham if Johnny Cash would help him out with his son. Johnny was a true Christian over that bunch. Okay. I'm not sure. Cherie, I guess I don't on the okay. All right. All right. So Larry, we're not going to put F-bombs up on the screen. But yeah, I know he's not going to take the hat off. But Larry, if you could call him and ask him for me, he might. Wait a minute. I'm getting coded messages from outer space. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So look, I've had a death in my family. So I have a funeral. I have to go to California for a funeral, and I'll be traveling tomorrow. So I won't be with you live tomorrow. I will be with you. Let me see. Did he respond? I will be with you on Wednesday. And then, okay. So we'll have a show. We'll be live Wednesday and we'll be live Friday. The funeral is Thursday. I'm traveling Tuesday. So, and Eric McHorder, thank you for that. Larry Hooks, thank you. Thank you all. So I just wanted to let you all know that I needed just a little time. I got to travel tomorrow. That's Tuesday. And then I'll be at a funeral on Thursday. So I'll be with family on Thursday. And Willis Williams, thank you. I lost a major component of my life has passed. I'll just put it that way. And Kevin, thank you. Kevin, that's why I said I'll be home. And that because I some of that time, Kevin, I will be spending, and I'm trying to get to Oakland for a couple of days, and thought we might be able to break some bread and have a adult beverage. So Kevin, if you're on Facebook, send me a message with your number, or call. If you've got my cousin Ray's number, call Ray. And because when I get to Oakland, I'll be operating through Krause Avenue in Arroyo Park. So anyway, with all of that, so is it time for me to get out of here? Oh, it is. It is. This is a mess, folks. This is a real mess. And it's a real mess. The president is doing everything in his power to get us into. Hey, Mel, do I have a couple more minutes? Can I go a couple more minutes here? Because I want to try to put a couple of. Yes. Okay. Thank you. What? So we need to ask ourselves, why did Donnie make this decision? And I think there are a couple. OL, thank you. OL Griffin says I can have a few more minutes of their time. So OL, you are so gracious. I appreciate that. Oh, Peggy, thank you. $20 super sticker. Peggy, thank you. I guess that is more. Peggy's saying I can have more time. So really quickly, why are we doing this? I think a couple of reasons. One, as you all know, part of this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. There has been a faction in the United States. Thank you, Larry, for the prayers. Appreciate it. There's been a Zionist faction in the United States for a very long time that has wanted to go to war with Iran, because there are many, particularly those in the technocracy, that see Iran as being that element of resistance to the United States being able to control the region. That's one element. Donald Trump is losing in Ukraine. Donald Trump is up. His numbers are tanking in the United States. Just about every poll I've seen shows plummet. Folks aren't supporting him for jack. So what presidents do when they find themselves on the bad end of the polling data, they've got to find a distraction. And war, unfortunately, can be that distraction. So there's a huge element of distraction here. There is, again, the fact that you've got a lot of those technocrats like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, that have been wanting a wanting a war. And when you understand that the technocracy, those are your scientific, your Elon Musks and your Peter Thiels, and they are trying to use the government to manage their view of the world. And so I'm getting lost in my own thing here. Okay, so there are a number of reasons. There's a Christian Zionist element to this. Again, when you look at the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, as a Christian Zionist, and they have Donald Trump's ear. So there are, I think that we are experiencing almost a perfect storm. That Donald Trump is one of those people that is susceptible to these various elements of influence. And they're all pointing to, we've got to get Iran out of the way. And so I don't think that there's one answer to this. I think there are many answers to this. And they're all pointing in a bad direction. I'd like, if we've got a little more time, any of you all want to talk about what can you do if you're afraid of living in the United States? Because Donald Trump has demonstrated that has zero concern for the Constitution. Again, Steve Bannon told us that they're going to that their mission is the deconstruction of the administrative state, which basically says they want to get rid of the government government institutions that are in their way, such as the judiciary and Congress. They believe in a unitary executive theory, which is that the executive branch is constitutionally more powerful than the other two branches of government. Where they get that from, I don't know, because again, Article 1 in the Constitution is the Congress, and Article 2, the second listed entity, is the executive branch. If the framers of the Constitution believed that the executive branch was the most powerful, why would they talk about co-equal branches of government, and why would the executive branch be listed second? If they felt that the executive branch was the most powerful, most likely it would have been listed first. And they would have made that very clear. Because when you read the Constitution, it's not hard to understand. It's boring as hell in some instances, but it's not hard to understand. They said what they meant, and they meant what they said. So I've been asked in a number of times, Wilmer, what should we do? And I've been reluctant to answer that question, because who am I to be so presumptuous as to tell you all what you should do? The first thing I believe that you've got to do is read. And I know some of you are tired of hearing me say that, but I believe that that's true, because the more you've heard the adage that information is power, and that is true. But what I have added to that adage is it's what you do with that information that makes you powerful. Yes, information is power, but it's what you do with the information that makes you powerful. So there are those who say there we go. All right. Sorry about that. So there are those who say that they're afraid of martial law, and which you should be, based upon Donald Trump sending disregarding the Constitution and sending the National Guard into California without Gavin Newsom's approval, with his federalizing the National Guard, with his sending Marines into California. That raises grave concerns. And I don't think it was an accident that during that whole time he has that utterly ridiculous military extravaganza, the boondoggle, called that 250th anniversary of the founding of the Army. I believe in most instances, when you see those types of parades in North Korea and in other countries, that's a display of the ruler of the country demonstrating to potential adversaries, come in here and mess with me if you want to, but I got something for you. Usually that's a international demonstration. I think Donald Trump's Saturday fiasco on the 14th of June was a domestic message that this is the force I have at my disposal, and that I'm not afraid to declare martial law and turn these guns on American people. Kevin Baptiste, have I heard that Iran releasing a statement that they will bomb the Diona nuclear site in Israel if there's further escalation? I have not heard that. I will try to quickly do some research on that and see if I can come up with an answer to that question. Kevin, thank you for raising it. So all of that to say, yes, you should be concerned about the president declaring martial law. And so now what are we to do? Well, the first thing is you've got to organize within your own communities. All politics is local. And so I believe you need to organize, truly organize within the political process, as in calling your elected representatives, emailing your elected representatives, going to these town hall meetings and demonstrating to them that politically their behinds are on the line if they continue to abdicate their responsibility and go along with this foolishness. Whether it is Chuck Grassley in Iowa as a Republican senator, whether it is Raphael Warnock as a Democratic senator, or Hakeem Jeffries as a member of Congress. You need to be all up in their mugs. And I mean that politically, legally. You need to be demonstrating we as an American people are retaking control of our country. You need to send a message at the midterms through the ballot box, whether that's whatever the party of your choice is. No, we're not past what I'm saying. Absolutely not. Congress and the Senate have checked out. That's because we haven't checked in. That's my belief. I'm an optimist. I'll tell you, I'm an optimist. In my mind, I have to believe in the process. Otherwise, I'm sitting here wasting my time. As a political scientist whose areas of expertise are Black politics and public policy, I have to, and I also am pretty clear on American government. I teach it at Morgan. I got to believe in the process in my mind. And some will tell me I'm wrong. And if you tell me I'm wrong, okay, that's fine. I can accept that. But I don't believe that, I do know that Congress has checked out. I do know that the Senate has checked out. I do know that the House has checked out. But that's because we, as citizens, have abdicated our responsibility, and it's now time for us to check back in. That's my humble opinion. And you can't fall for the lovely smile of AOC Ocasio-Cortez. No, she's selling you a pig and a poke. Pig and a poke. No, Bernie selling you a pig and a poke. If you buy that one, folks, I got some swampland in New Mexico I want to sell you. Those of you that are thinking about leaving the country, if you have the means to do so, be very careful about where you go. Because in some instances, you could be going from the frying pan into the fire. You might be changing. Different isn't always better. Different isn't always better. In many instances, different is just different. So you might be swapping problems, but you still got problems. So if you have the means to become an expatriate, if you have the means to move to Ghana, to buy a house in Ghana, for example, be very careful. And this is not to say anything negative about Ghana, but or another country. You might want to move to Burkina Faso. You might want to move to Botswana, which is one of the more stable countries on the continent. But you need to check it out thoroughly. Should we be preparing for food shortages? Absolutely. You should be preparing for food shortages. So you need to be buying canned goods, bottled water. You need to be, if you have the ability, setting aside some cash. Because in the midst of a power outage and you dash to the ATM in a power outage, the ATM won't work. So if you don't have some access to cash, you're going to be in trouble. In cities and states where it is legal to own firearms, you need to avail yourself of your rights in that state or town. But not only do you need to avail yourself of that right, you need to be able to hit your target when you pull the trigger at it. When you shoot at the target, you bet be able to hit the target. That means you need to train. That means if you're in Maryland, you need to call people like Willie Hicks and OPSEC LLC, and you need to train so that You don't shoot yourself in the foot or shoot your child in the dark because you hear something stirring at night and you think Donald Trump's coming to get you with his silly hat on. You tend to become the most afraid when you are the least prepared. Whatever that means, whatever preparation means, whatever your financial means, whatever depth to which your financial means allow you to prepare. I'm not scared. I'm concerned, but I'm not scared. Because thanks to Willie, I hit my target. And I use that literally and figuratively. Do I have $1 million stored in my basement? I do not. But I can go for some time without going to the grocery store. I can even go sometime without going to the liquor store. But you need to organize. So you need to be working with family members. You need to be working with neighbors that you can trust, that are of a similar mindset. So you buy the cases of beans, your neighbor next door buys the cases of corn, your neighbor across the street buys the rice. Some of y'all need to have some generators, so in the midst of a power outage, you can keep a light on in your house and a refrigerator. I mean, these are the kinds of things. I've got a generator that I can pull out of my shed, plug into my box, and run some things in my house. These are the kinds of things I think you need to be thinking about. But again, you've got to be reading. You've got to be reading. The more you read, the better prepared you'll be. But yes, you should prepare for food shortages. And you should prepare for power outages. But we do have a constitution. I do believe that it is still a viable document. It's not the oldest surviving document of governance in the world for no reason, in spite of its flaws, of which there are many. And I know originally it wasn't written for us. I know about the 3/5 compromise. I know that the importation of enslaved Africans was permitted after the Constitution was ratified. I got that. But I'm not willing to give it up. Not willing to give it up. Some of you are, and this is not a value judgment. I understand. And if that's your choice, that's your choice. But not everybody has the means to pick up and go elsewhere. Not everybody has the means to pick up and go elsewhere. Some of us are going to have to stay and fight right where we are. Some of us are got to get 10 toes down, and we're going to have to fight this out right where we are. So then it becomes a question of, how do you choose to do that? So, we can pick this one up at another time, but that's the initial answer to some of these questions. Again, Congress, the House and the Senate, they have checked out, but only because we allowed them to do so. They could not have done this. We should be looking to overturn the Citizens United case. Y'all want a political project to go out and start working on? Overturn the Citizens United case. Get this corporate money out of our politics. Ask yourself, how was Elon Musk allowed to invest, to buy for millions of dollars the position within the Trump administration that he purchased? How was he able to do that? Part of that answer has to do with the Citizens United case. And here's another assignment. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, get familiar with it. And then look to see how we can organize to have, since it was a case passed by the Supreme Court, now using checks and balances, now understanding the different branches of government, you've got to get Congress to pass a law reining in corporations' ability to invest in the political process. Because at the end of the day, that's at the crux of the challenge to our democratic process. We need to be looking at whether or not AIPAC should have to register as a foreign agent. It's another question that I think is worth asking, worth investigating, and running to ground. Should a political action committee whose sole function is operating at the behest of and in the interest of a foreign country, why don't they have to register as a foreign agent? Why have they been able to buy most of the members of Congress? Why are most of the members of Congress assigned handlers to be sure that they vote in favor of the interests of the Zionist settler colony known as Israel? Why? We don't have to sit idly by and allow what's happened to continue. We do still have power. We can still make change. But when you applaud people like Bernie Sanders, who's nothing more than a sheepdog for the Democrats, and AOC standing on the stage next to him, when you still accept that, the Comprador class, Robert Brown, you're right, the Comprador class, you're right, the Black misleadership class, when you still sit idly by and allow those folks to tell you what's what and who's who, well, then now that's on you, Scooby-Doo. That's on you. When you think that Cory Booker's 25-hour yakathon was actually substantive, when he didn't say a mumbling word about genocide. Robert Brown, thank you for that $10 super sticker. Then that's on you. When you're at a dinner party and somebody makes mention of Kamala Harris and asks the question, well, what actually did she stand for and what actually did she do? When somebody asks that question at a cookout, at a dinner party, in a grocery store, and then somebody says, well, you just hate Black women. Somebody got to step to that person's defense and say, no. That ain't got nothing to do with it. But see, if you haven't read anything, then you're not really prepared to engage in that thought process If you can't do that, then the questions of what are we to do if people are afraid, my answering those questions are a waste of time. Because if you can't do the basics, how then can you take the advanced class? I'm going to say that again. If you haven't read anything, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. The pig and the pope. Emmanuel Cleaver. Emmanuel Cleaver? Is that his name? The dude in South Carolina? We riding with Biden. Really? The answers are in the analysis. Thank you, AM. The answer. Thank you. Thank you, AM. The answers are in the analysis. But what are we to do? If you're not willing to engage in the basics, then you're not ready for the. How can you take algebra 2 if you can't add 1 + 1 = 2 in a political context? Political education is a must for our people and the masses. Absolutely right. David Levering Lewis's W.E.B. Du Bois Biography of a Race. I mean, I just turned around and grabbed a book. And I'm not saying, and this is the final, I'm not saying everybody has to read the same things. I'm not saying that everybody will be competent and capable of reading the same things. But if you start reading something, then we at least have some areas in which we can engage and have intelligent conversation. But if you're not reading anything, then you'll fall for anything. You'll believe in that the invasion of Haiti is right. You'll believe Haitians are in Springfield, Ohio, eating people's pets. You'll believe that Kenya and William Ruto are doing some type of honorable task by being the black face on American imperialism. You'll ignore Gaza and genocide, and you'll accept Gregory Meeks saying nothing about it. You'll accept Hakeem Jeffries saying nothing about it. You will accept what's his name in Atlanta saying nothing about it. That's not our problem. So, with that, thank you all for your time today. I truly, truly appreciate it. And again, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You'll wind up being hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. In fact, hold up. Let me see. See. Get a hold of this. Malcolm Speaks. Get a hold of that. Oh, wait a minute. Here you go. You ready? $5.99. $5.99. Fred Hampton Speaks. 3 speeches. Fred Hampton, 4 speeches. Fred Hampton Speaks. 4 speeches from 1969. You can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. For $5.99. You can get it on Amazon. And I'm not supporting Jeff Bezos because I think he's a disgusting hypocrite, criminal, and Leviathan. But that's how you can get it delivered to your house in a day. Start here. Start right here. Fred Hampton Speaks. Very simple. Very simple. Wait a minute. Hold up, shorty. Mozambique, revolution or reaction? Thomas Sankara. I'm sorry. Samara Michelle. Samora Michelle. Mozambique, revolution or reaction? 2 speeches. Really simple. Really, really simple. You don't, hang on. Hang on. If you can find it, The Choice by Sam Yet. Dear fraternity brother mine. The Choice. Read The Choice. Read, you know what? One more. Miseducation of the Negro. Start right there. Miseducation of the Negro. You don't have to get into Frantz Fanon. I mean, this is a little more advanced reading. So you don't have to start here. Start with Miseducation of the Negro. And when you read The Choice, where to go? These two, to me, are yin and yang, or not, are Bing and Bong. Who Needs the Negro by Sidney Wilhelm, and The Choice. Read these two together. Who Needs the Negro by Sidney Wilhelm, and The Choice by Sam Yet. Fred Hampton Speaks, folks. Listen to Malcolm. Get the CD. This is where it starts. That's where it starts. Because remember, Gil Scott-Heron told you, the activity you see in the street is not the revolution. I repeat, the activity, the unrest that you see in the street is not the revolution. The revolution starts when you change your mind. The revolution starts when you change the way you look at things. What you see in the street is a physical manifestation of that change in mindset. Thank you. Fred Hampton Speaks is a great place to start changing that mindset. Getting this CD, Malcolm Speaks Out, is a great place to start to change that mindset. Miseducation of the Negro. Fundamental, very basic. Very, very basic. Great place to start. Great place to start. When Bobby Seale and Huey, when they all started the Black Panther Party for self-defense at Merritt College in Oakland, they were reading. That's what enabled them to coalesce. They were reading. Read Gerald Horne's, I'd go get it, but it's in another room. Counter-Revolution of 1776. Get Gerald Horne's Counter-Revolution of 1776. because that'll help dispel the myth that the American Revolution was centered around taxes. The taxation without representation is tyranny. Read Dr. Gerald Horne's The Counter-Revolution of the 17th. Read Dr. Gerald Horne's Comrades of the Crown. How African Americans fought with Britain. See, if you haven't read some of that, and the operative word there or words for self-defense, they were protecting the community. Yeah, Negro Comrades of the Crown. Thank you, AZ. Negro Comrades of the Crown. Again, I could go get the books, but that would take me off screen. Miseducation Negro. If you see, here I know to a great degree I'm preaching to the choir, because if you're watching this show, you've done some reading. And finally, please play more John Coltrane. All right, y'all. I'm out tomorrow and Thursday. And thanks so much for listening to my rant today. Follow, subscribe, leave a review, share the show. Follow us on social media. Remember that this is where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge, because talk without analysis is just chatter, and we don't chatter here on Connecting the Dots. See y'all Wednesday. Until then, I am Dr. Wilmer Leon. Have a blessed remainder of your day. Peace. I'm out.
Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon, where the analysis of politics, culture, and history converge.